Hello everyone and welcome back to another figure review. Today we're taking a look at something a little different but still true to the channel's brand, the Tonsen ArtToys Unbound Wrath Warped Vengeance version A, or as I like to call them, Bojacked trunks. This is one of Tonsen's third wave of figures to be released, and it's something the S.H.Figuarts community has been begging for from Tamashii for years. Instead we get older style battle clothes Vegeta and the healing chamber. Lots of folks have ranted and raved about these figures from Tonsen, and I can understand why. In this video, I'm looking to do an in-depth review of version A, and then have another video reviewing version B. Real quick before we get too far off into the weeds, what do y'all think of third-party releases? Me personally, I have my own opinion, and I'm gonna be a bit of a tease and save it till the end of the review. So with that said, let's get into it. Starting with the packaging, we have the box design for version A done in a lavender color scheme, and it depicts the base form of Bojacked Trunks holding a flower with baby Trunks off to our left. The presentation is alright for what it is, and it kinda reminds me of the event exclusive boxes. Here's a look at the right side of the box, which is just another close-up image of Trunks. And as we can see, my version A box is struggling a bit to stay standing. Seems like they skimped out on the glue just a bit on the bottom of the box. Anywho, here's a look at the back side of the box, which is not as detailed as Tonsen's previous Trunks releases, but it's fine. I'm not planning on displaying the box or anything like that, so it is what it is. Here's a look at the left side of the box, a quick look at the top, and bottom to round off the packaging. So before we really dive into the detail of this release, let's get one thing out of the way. Version A is going to be based off of his appearance from movie 9, but he does have subtle hints from movie 8. Yes, in some instances of movie 8, he does have a yellow belt and boots, but that can all be attributed to who did the coloring for those particular scenes. So this means Trunks' color scheme is going to be pretty close to that of Tamashii's boy from the future. Now with that said, for being a third-party figure, I'm pretty impressed overall. This is going to be an all-original sculpt from the ground up, and I don't think there's anything borrowed from Tamashii's release besides the socket for the neck peg, and you know exactly what that means. In fact, there are a lot of improvements Tonsen made with their design, with one or two minor setbacks that we'll talk about as we go. The coloring looks to be spot on with the source material, and what paint apps we do get are done nicely. Shading is going to be limited here and there, but we can see a lot of shading has been applied to the lower half of his trousers. Probably my favorite thing about this figure are his faceplates and the Super Saiyan hair sculpt. Again, this particular Trunks is going to be modeled after his appearance mainly from Bojacked Unbound, but also the legendary Super Saiyan Broly movie. And the Super Saiyan head sculpt is going to be finished in a metallic gold similar to that of the Majin Vegeta head sculpt set that Tonsen put out a couple years ago. I know it's personal preference when it comes to the finish on these Super Saiyan head sculpts, but this is by far the better of the two when compared to version B of Trunks. Speaking of, if there's anything you prefer over version B or vice versa, all of these accessories are interchangeable. The same goes for the original A and B versions of Warped Vengeance, which has many more faceplates than what we get here. So that's something to keep in mind if you have both of those versions and are eyeballing this figure as well. Want Trunks to have his hands in his pockets? No problem. Want a teary-eyed Trunks with long hair? You got it. Want your boy from the future to look like he just got out of the hyperbolic time chamber or is from movie 8? Better have that credit card ready because you can have that too. The combinations are endless and I love this figure for it. For the accessories, Trunks is going to come with 3 extra faceplates for the default head sculpt for a total of 4. A Super Saiyan head sculpt that comes with 3 faceplates in total, 5 extra sets of hands for a total of 6 when you count the fists, plus an additional right hand, his trusty sword and scabbard, 2 belts for the scabbard, one with a bit of extra length for when you have the jacket on, and the other for when you have it off, and a baby Trunks that comes with an extra head sculpt and an extra set of arms. So let's take a closer look at the default head sculpt. For the faces we get, a stern face, a teeth gritting face, a shouting face, and a face smiling and looking down to our right. For the faces on the Super Saiyan head sculpt we get, a stern face looking slightly to our left, a teeth gritting face looking slightly to our right, and a shouting face. For those of you wondering, these faces will not fit on the boy from the future. You'll have to do some slight modification to make them work, and even then, I think there's a slight difference with how far back the ears sit when compared to the other 2 head sculpts. Now moving on to the hands and not including the fists that come attached, we get 2 splayed out hands, 2 martial arts style hands, 2 hands made to hold the scabbard, 2 hands for holding the sword, 2 karate chop hands, and a right hand holding a flower. So here's my first actual gripe with this figure and the other Tonsen ArtToys Trunks for that matter. The hands are not to scale as they should be. If you compare it to Tamashii's boy from the future, it's pretty obvious that the scale is off. Now luckily, you can use those hands on this release, and I think they work perfectly. So if you're like me and have 3 original copies with the shitty hips laying around, you can use them for parts. You just have to be mindful that the skin tone is off ever so slightly. But here, you can see how much of a difference it makes, and I wish these hands were 1-to-1 with the official release. Next, we have the sword and scabbard along with two separate straps that are different lengths. Again, one will be longer to compensate for the jacket, and the other one is going to be for when Trunks doesn't have it on. The straps Tonsen ArtToys provides are definitely an improvement over the ones that Tamashii uses, as the bottom strap has a magnet, so you don't have to worry about breaking off the peg that goes into the bottom of the scabbard. Lastly, in the place of the sword effect pieces that come with the original Warped Vengeance Trunks, we get Baby Trunks. He's not articulated, so getting him to sit up by himself is almost impossible. He does come with an interchangeable head sculpt to represent him crying, and he also comes with interchangeable arms. Nothing special, but it's a nice bonus. Alright, let's get into the articulation here for Trunks. Now so far I've talked nothing but high praises about the figure. He is absolutely stunning for what he is, and the accessories are loaded. But now that we've peaked, we've started to kind of plateau, and now we're fixing to taper off because the articulation is where Trunks falls just a little bit short. And keep in mind, this is my copy that I'm experiencing issues with that I'll talk about in just a second, and your copy could have been perfect right out of the box. Still, it's important that I talk about it because somebody else out there might have those said issues as well. So let's go ahead and get Trunks up close and take a look at what's going on. Now, starting with the head and working our way down, Trunks is going to be on a double ball peg that will allow him to look down with the neck joint about like so. Looking up, on the other hand, is going to be limited because the hair is fairly long. As you can see, there is not much clearance and not much flexibility with the hair that's going to allow him to look up quite a bit. In fact, if you try any harder than this right here, the head just pops off. Speaking of, let's go ahead and put on the Super Saiyan head sculpt just so that way we can see what the range looks like with this as well. Keep in mind, you still get a little bit of side-to-side movement with the other version of Trunks' head sculpt, but with this, I mean, it's pretty good. And then looking up is about neutral, just a little bit greater. Again, any more than that, and you're going to pop the head sculpt off. I digress, though. Now, for the arms, Trunks is going to be able to bring the fists together about like so. And the jacket itself, I think, is what's keeping the fist from crossing, as the original Boy from the Future is able to cross his hands no problem, or cross his arms no problem. Now, once I take the jacket off, and again, this figure is literally just going to become another Warped Vengeance without the jacket, as we can see here. Now, bringing the arms in closer, you can see the arms cross, no problem. Very nice. They are going to be on a ball and socket system that rotates a full 360. You do have T-posing capabilities of 180 degrees. You have an upper bicep swivel that rotates at full 360, double jointed elbows, and you have a forearm swivel, which is very nice. Doesn't rotate a full 360, but you can pop the arm off, and if you have either version of Warped Vengeance A or B, you can put on the jacket if you want to, make it look like he's taking the jacket off. Wrist pegs are going to be ball hinges. They're fairly nice. Moving on to the torso. The torso is going to be able to crunch forward about like so, with the arm out of the way, and lean back about like so. Now, if this happens to you, you can see I can't crunch forward now. I just broke loose. But it was kind of hung up there for a second. If that happens to you, just kind of take your thumb, put it right here in the abdomen, and push in, and that'll help clear whatever is, keeping you from being able to lean Trunks forward. There is some side-to-side pivot. It's not the greatest, and there's a lot of creaking, so I really wouldn't force this part of the figure's articulation here. And then once you take the chest and the waist into consideration, that's what Trunks can do. It's pretty good. Again, push in. There you go. And then you get some rotation down at the waist. It's very creaky. It's not tight enough that it requires some shock oil, but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Whew. Okay, now the biggest point of contention I have with Trunks here is going to be his legs. They are spring-loaded, just like the old school Vegeta from 2017 and the original Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, where the legs just kind of really don't hold themselves. They want to collapse real easily on you like that. And that's a bit of a bummer because, I mean, my version B of this figure works flawlessly, and I'm riddled with this, and this is what really sets the figure back for me in terms of like the overall like grading I would give this figure is just ruined because of how loose the legs are and how they, yeah, see how he just wants to roll? He's not very good. So posing the figure is very awkward, and yeah. I mean, it works for what it is, but getting him to hold a crouching pose, which you'll see at the end of the video, was very hard to keep Trunks in that pose and not have him just like want to like do the splits and fall over on himself. Yeah, it's very disappointing. Now, that's not to say that the original Trunks did not, have issues either, because we all know how those horrible, stinky legs were. Anywho, as you can see, upper thigh swivel works pretty good. You got some double-jointed knees. This knee in particular, the cap here, the kneecap had fallen off on me. Actually, wasn't. I don't even think it was attached properly to begin with. I had to heat up the leg in some hot water and then really, really press the kneecap back on, and now it's good as new. And then for the leg, or the foot and the ankle, rocking in is pretty good. Rocking out is not so bad. Tilting down with the toe is good, and then tilting up is, it's okay. And then there's your toe hinge. So overall, is this Trunks going to do what you want him to do? Yes, he's going to do exactly what you want him to do, and he, again, improves on a few things from the original Trunks, and falls a little short on, mainly because I think it's the QC issues. When you compare him up to something like the Boy from the Future, the reissue here, my money's on the reissue for the Boy from the Future. Now, that said, if you were to throw this one into the mix, which we'll review next, version B of Warped Vengeance Unbound Wrath is the GOAT. I think this is the better figure overall when compared to version A, just because, one, he doesn't have the stanky leg issue, which I'll show you right here. He doesn't have the issue with the legs wanting to be spring-loaded. As you can see, that I have to follow through with the movement of the legs. And both of these, I will say, have tolerance issues. They are tight from the factory, if I haven't explained that yet, but you're definitely going to need some shock oil. I'll touch on it with this figure when I give the breakdown and talk about preventative maintenance and everything with this guy, because I already doctored this one up when I started doing the review, but this one, you'll understand why shock oil is needed, because these arms were very tight. So we'll talk about it. But overall, though, this Trunks is going to do what you want him to do. He's not bad. With head swaps, we'll be taking a look at what these head sculpts look like on versions B of Bojacked Trunks, as well as the Boy from the Future. Sadly, you're not going to be able to use these head sculpts in any other version of Trunks. This includes Latent Power, the Dragon Ball Super versions of Trunks, as well as GT. While his long hair is perfect for a Trunks straight out of movie 8 or 9, you're sadly not going to have a whole lot of range with his long hair. But I think the real star of the show here is the Super Saiyan head sculpt. It makes Trunks look like he's a Super Saiyan grade 3, and I love it. Which one is your favorite? Now, as for the head sculpts for the releases we just looked at, here's what their head sculpts look like on this Trunks. For the comparisons, here's Bojacked Trunks next to Super Saiyan Gohan, the fighter who surpassed Goku. The legendary Super Saiyan Son Goku. Super Saiyan Vegeta awakens Super Saiyan Blood. Piccolo, the Proud Namekian, and Goku Black. So for my closing thoughts on Tonsen's take on one of Dragon Ball's most iconic and beloved characters, even after all the QC issues I had with my copy, I think they did an okay job with this release. While I own and have not reviewed the original copies of Warped Vengeance Trunks, I kind of expected this figure to be about the same in terms of articulation and overall presentation. Originally, I just wanted those figures to use the base form head and faceplates for the boy from the future, but now that I've had time to really dive into these figures, they are solid standalone releases. Yes, they can be subjected to tolerance issues right out of the box, and you're not going to have a solid warranty standing behind it like with Figuarts if something breaks, but I would not let that discourage you from picking them up as they are solid releases. That said, if you do pick either one of these up, they are a bit pricey, so I would take extra caution when breaking these figures in, just not literally though. Version A is sold out online on the site that I frequent, which is wild to me because I think version B is the superior of the two, but that's for another video. Now, as far as my take on supporting third-party companies versus buying official releases, it's not the hottest one ever. I'm a fan of spending your money on what makes you happy, so give me all your money. I'm joking, but seriously, spend your money on what makes you happy. And if that means you want something that Tamashii isn't giving you, then by all means get it where you can. I'm also a firm believer that we shouldn't have to resort to the aftermarket for figures that we're not getting in an official capacity. But I think it's important to look at and review these figures because this is technically Tamashii's direct competition, and those folks are making money where Tamashii could be. Legit ask yourselves though, if Tamashii announced that they would be releasing their own Bojacked version of Trunks, would you pick it up? Despite owning both versions of this Trunks, I know I would, and I'm going to assume that an overwhelming majority of y'all would too, because despite everything, Tamashii can still drop bangers when they want to. I'm also almost certain that these figures make their way to Tamashii's headquarters as well, where their engineers dissect them and ask themselves, where can we improve on this or that? Or they just outright raid the shops and shut it down so they can continue to give us subpar figures at inflated prices. But on that note, that's going to bring us to the end of the review. I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for making it to the end. If you haven't already, kind of hit the like button and subscribe as it helps me out and keeps the channel growing. Plus, I've got other videos up and more to come. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this Trunks. Do you like it, or will you only support official releases? Again, if Tamashii decides to drop their own version of Bojacked Trunks, I'm going to pick it up either way. But if we stop supporting the line, they'll either get the hint, or they'll just shut the line down entirely. And if they do, it is what it is. Next up will be version B of Bojacked Trunks, and then I've got another third-party release we're going to be taking a look at, and I'm pretty sure many of you already know what that is. But until then, this has been Delete Reviews, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.